Hi, I'm Andrew Klima, hashtag climate change, coming to you from New York City in the Sirhan House, home of the best real estate firm ever. And this is The Anatomy of an Entrepreneur, a podcast where we dissect and kind of explore what makes an entrepreneur tick. And joining me today is a former teammate / I would say competitor, turned real estate coach, but always a friend, Jaclyn Treinkman. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
She came all the way from like the boondocks, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Catskills.
Woodstock, New York. Yeah.
Woodstock.
The Hudson Valley.
Hudson Valley. She took the train.
I did.
And you're here.
And I'm here.
You made it.
I made it.
And in
2 hours door to door. Not bad.
See, you can live in a New York City suburb. I don't know.
Little far.
Little far.
I've done it. I've done it by day. I have. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a long day. But, you know, some things are worth it, you know?
Like this podcast.
Like this podcast.
And speaking of, your evolution of your career really is very interesting to me. So let's jump right in and go to it. Talk to me. Okay. Where did you start?
So I started in actually my first dabble into the real estate business was selling timeshares.
I didn't know that.
I know, and I realized you didn't know this. But yeah, on 57th Street.
Shut up.
And yeah, and I was doing that, and then I was like,
Were you successful at it?
Yeah, I was like, yes, I was like booking the tours to the timeshares, and then I was planning to be the one that like goes for the kill. But before I did that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go into real estate.
Okay.
So I went into real estate. And I was at Halstead. First, I was at a rental company. Then I was at Halstead.
Okay.
And then landed at Compass.
Which is where we met.
Shout
out to Dylan Hoffman.
Yes.
Hoffman team.
And so I did that whole thing for, I guess it was like over 10 years.
Yeah, wow.
And then COVID hit. And
Wait. Hold on. You're like really glazing here. I need to tell everyone that you were like a fierce agent in New York City. You were not just like, I'm dabbling in, like, because you said dabble before. You were like the one to beat. You were like throwing up deals all the time, right?
Well, so are you.
I know, but this is not like me giving myself an ego boost. You were awesome.
Thank you.
And you were specifically really good with buyers, right?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed working with buyers. I mean, you know, they give us the runaround.
Sure.
But I did really like working with buyers.
I think your secret sauce, in my opinion, from an outside perspective, was your follow-up was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
So, I mean, that's so much of the business. You know, it's like probably more than 50%. It's like you get the lead, but if you don't do anything with it afterwards for months, sometimes years. I mean, I would get deals that literally were like 5 years in the making of me following up.
Wow.
And I would like look back at my notes.
How'd you keep track of them?
Like, CRM.
You did.
Baby. I had Salesforce from day one.
Yeah. All I can really remember is Jack walking into the office, usually like a little like serious, sitting down at the computer, and then leaving. Like, it was like you were very focused. You came in to do it, and then you went away. And the rest of us were like, Jack, come on, play with us. And you were like, no, you know?
Yeah, I was very focused.
Yeah.
I was really focused.
But that was the key to your success, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I didn't relax a whole lot. I definitely experienced some burnout.
Oh, interesting. We got to talk about that later.
I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't in this business, right? It's really hard to just like have a chill day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So let me keep pushing. So now COVID hits.
Yes.
And
so COVID hits, and my husband, Matt, who you know, we decided to go upstate for a couple of weeks. We're like, let's get out of here. We'll get an Airbnb. We got some, you know, cute little house in Connecticut. And we're like, let's stay here for a couple of weeks. And things were not getting better in the city. They were getting worse. I mean, our business shut down for a while.
Right.
I had like 10 deals that were supposed to close like in March. And I was just like freaking out. And we just kept getting more Airbnbs. We're like, all right, let's stay a little bit longer. Like, it's not like I can work anyway. We just kept getting more Airbnbs. And then I got pregnant.
Right. That's what you did during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we all had babies during COVID.
Exactly. Yeah. What else was there to do? So then we were like, oh, well, maybe we should stay a little bit longer and kind of figure things out. Okay. So we held on to our apartment here for a very long time because we couldn't really let go. And we had intended to move back like a couple of times. I mean, we had a new apartment. We got rid of the old one. We signed a new lease. Wow. We had movers coming. Our stuff was in boxes, and then we pulled the plug 2 days before the movers were supposed to come. Whoa. I mean, you remember that day I saw you in the office, and I was like, I'm coming back. Right. I came back one time. And then I didn't come back again. We just decided that having a family made more sense for us to be up there. We're near family there. More space, just a slower lifestyle. And we both really pivoted. Okay. So now you're up there in Woodstock with nothing to do but make granola. And you're like, well, what am I going to do now? Yeah. So it was a really difficult transition for me I can imagine. I didn't know what I never thought I was leaving New York City, ever. And you were dominating, right? You and I have talked about this offline, how like you were at the top of your game and then you were just like, nope, and pulled the plug. That's how it seemed, but it was like an arduous decision and an arduous transition. It was not like right away. I mean, I tried coming down, a couple times a week, and it was just like too much. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe I can just start referring things out, but still trying to get leads. And I'm like, then I felt like I was living this double life. And I eventually decided that I had to pivot. And I had to think of something else and some other way. Yes, entrepreneur, pivot. That I could not lose all of the experience that I had because I didn't want to switch industries, but I also didn't want to do real estate anywhere else. Why? I guess I was afraid that like it was too different. I'm like a hustler, and I just felt like if I'm not like selling these, big expensive apartments, it's like, who needs it? And I didn't want to drive 45 minutes to an appointment. I'd rather take the subway. Okay. Yeah, you're gritty. You're a New Yorker. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I decided to get into coaching. I was like, how can I take my experience, stay in the industry, and still have like always one foot in it. Okay. Help people learn what I've done. Maybe people respect that I did it in New York City for a while and was successful. And I just decided to give that a shot. And I was like, look, I'm going to see how this goes. It's a remote thing. Yeah, that's true. And, I didn't have to, I have a 2-year-old, so I could be home with him, which was really important to me. And I decided to just go for it. Nice. And then how long has it been now that you've been coaching? It's been about a year. Yeah. So, but, I was sort of unofficially coaching some other team members. Sure. It wasn't like this formal dynamic, but I was doing it. And this just felt like a professional way to kind of solidify it. Right. All right. So you started the business of coaching, and now you're helping schmoes like me. I'm a client, right? The best. Try to get their stuff together and stay on top of it. And so now you're a real estate coach. Yeah. So talk to the audience about what a real estate coach is in case they don't know. Like why does a real estate agent need a coach, frankly? So it's actually an industry, so to speak, that most people don't know about unless they're in real estate. Okay. Like they ask me what I do and I say I'm a real estate coach. They're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Right. And you really wouldn't know unless you were in real estate. Sure. We worked with a coach. Sure. At our whole team. We sure did. Yeah. So basically what I do is I help agents like yourself and, of varying levels of where they are in their business. Some have just gotten licensed and some have been in the business for 20, 30 years. And they're looking for a way to level up pretty much. Interesting. And so we work on a lot of different things depending on where they are. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of formula. I mean, you know firsthand, like everybody has just different things that they're working on.
Sure.
And in order to be successful in real estate, there's, while the business is the same, there's varying ways of how to succeed.
Sure.
And everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So, I work with that with each client on, well, what are they good at? Let's capitalize on that. What are they not so good at? Do we stop doing that, or do we want to work on that? So I just help them get to the next level.
It must be interesting and also difficult, because it sounds like, when we're doing real estate deals, there's kind of like a formula, like X happens, then X happens, then X happens, Y, Z, whatever. With your clients, it sounds like there's a lot of differentiating here. Like
there is.
You must have to do a lot of legwork to even get to the coaching call.
So it is very, everyone is working on different things,
Sure.
right? People specialize in different areas. But oddly enough, one of the most important things that we work on is not necessarily the craft. It's staying on task. And,
Interesting.
And time management and discipline. And, it's like you could tell me you want to do X, Y, Z, but do you have a plan put into place? Are you working on this plan every day? It's not like, I want to get better at pitching, which is, some people do want that.
Right.
But then it becomes more about practicing, know?
Right.
And are you putting plans together? Are you implementing them? Are you executing?
Okay, thank you. Perfect segue to entrepreneurism, which is really what we're here about. And I think that you're such an interesting, fascinating guest, and I'm very excited about this episode because you have all of the parts of it, right? You were an agent, now you're a coach, both of which are entrepreneurial businesses, and then you are inside the brain of all these other entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited to talk about entrepreneurism from all three facets. So you've kind of alluded to one thing, so let's just roll with it. You're saying the common denominator, if you had to make one out for all your clients, is time management?
Yes, staying on task and time management, 100%.
Interesting. So how is that surprising to you?
Yes, it is surprising to me because it's something that was so innate for me. And what I've discovered is that it often needs to be learned. And
interesting.
And there's no harm in that. I mean, people are born with a different skill set. Some, and you work on certain things. Maybe I'm not good at one thing, but I'm good at this. And everyone is like that.
Sure.
But it was shocking to me how many people don't have that instinctual sense of what to do when you are given an opportunity. Let's call it a lead.
Interesting.
Right? Huh. And I mean, we've talked about this just on a personal level. Like if you're not running with what you're given or what you've, the opportunity that's in front of you,
yes.
What are you doing? And some people just don't get that. So does that make sense?
It does. I'm curious if across your coaching clients, I would assume you have all different types of performers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
From not so great, just joined, to really killing it.
Yes.
Is that a fair assumption?
Definitely.
And yet, this is the common thread.
This is the common thread.
So weird.
Yeah.
So even a high performer has trouble with it.
Yes.
I can go ahead and out myself. I'm totally comfortable coming out. Not, come on, you. With the fact that I also struggle with this, right? I say to you about prospecting, that I put that hour in the freaking calendar and then I just go ahead and ignore it. I'm like, well, it's there in my calendar, but yeah.
Right.
I think instead I should do these things on my task list, right? So I'm still being efficient in a different way, but I'm just ignoring what I know I should do.
Right. Well, I think that it's also interesting because like you said, people know what they should be doing, but it's having that person to answer to.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, if you don't have someone because there's no bosses in this industry. No one is making you be anywhere. You have to set your own schedule. You have to, make your own appointments and do what you think is right. But if you don't, no one cares.
Interesting.
So it helps people to know that, okay, I have someone to answer to.
So like the accountability factor, like you being an accountability mirror or coach is another big part of why maybe someone would come to you for coaching.
Exactly. Because you can sort of think of, all right, this is what I want to do. And, you end up just waking up and like hoping that it happens. But if you have me talking to you once a week or whatever it is, being like, hey, where are we with this? You almost feel like you owe it to me.
You're right.
Because you're like, oh, right, got to do that. We talked about that. She's going to ask me. And as simple as that sounds, it works.
Well, it totally works. When there's this exchange of anything between two people, you feel indebted to the other person, even though you don't. I mean, I know you don't care if I don't make my prospecting calls. It's not going to change.
That's not true.
Well, okay, but it's not going to change your life and your day, right? But I feel like, oh, geez, I got to do this for Jack.
Right.
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 Really, I got to do it for me.
You got to do it for you.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's, by the way, when I actually do it. Right.
Right.
Do you find that to be the case with most people, even though they feel like indebted to you as the coach or whatever? It really takes them saying, I must do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
How do you get the people there?
So it's hard because sometimes I have to tell people, like, I can't be more invested in your business than you are.
Right.
Because if I'm the one that's on you so much and you're not putting in the work, you're not doing what we talked about. And by the way, this is not just about prospecting, right? There's many other things that agents have to do.
So many.
Too many. So many things. But it's
name a couple, would you? Like what do you have people complain to you, or maybe complain is a bad word, but discuss with you about the facets of this business in case you are not in the real estate industry?
Yeah.
What are some things people have to manage?
So the biggest thing within the last, 5 years is social media.
Social freaking media. Yes.
Which you do a great job.
Well, thank you, Joan, right? I've said it on this podcast before. And Brittany, it's a team. It's a team effort.
It is.
Because I can't do it all myself.
Right.
I really can't.
Right. You are in a position where you're at a point in your career where you can outsource things, right?
Okay, but let me just put the brakes on.
You do a lot of it on your own. I know this.
No, but my outsourcing to Joan, I love you, is, a fairly low lift to me financially.
Okay.
To any agent. I think it's well worth it to find someone that can help you with this task.
Agree.
It pays dividends.
It's daunting, and everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
Most people are not comfortable on camera.
Right.
They, and that's the focus.
I have that problem too. Yeah.
The focus is you on camera. We want to see your face.
Right.
Because your customers are getting to know you on your Instagram and on your YouTube, whereas before that wasn't a thing.
Right.
And now it is. And if you don't do that, it's very hard to keep up.
Interesting. So social media, what else?
Social media, other lead generation, platforms, whether it's on, like what to do. Do we do direct mail? Do we do online leads? Do we, set up a farm, a geographic farm? I mean, are we cold calling in other markets? Are we door knocking? There's so much. Are we
lead
networking?
Right.
Lead gen. Because that's where it all starts.
Right.
Right? You need the lead. Then what, right?
Okay. I like how we're thinking about this. Okay, now I have the lead. And so if it's a buyer or a seller, now all these other things have to come into play. And I assume that there are problems that people encounter with this too. Like now, how do I communicate with these people?
Right. Which is not always an innate skill. I think most people get into this business because they consider themselves like a people person.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's a lot of people who are not people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those skills do need to be learned about how do you properly communicate with your clients to, not necessarily influence them, but, help them get where they want to go. When we're talking about a seller, for example. But, aside from that, while you're in the deal, while you're working on a listing or working with a buyer, the biggest thing is branding yourself.
Yeah.
And you do an amazing job at that. We know this.
#climate change.
But for most agents, it's like, oh my God, I have to do that. I have to create this whole, persona that's now on camera and the world is seeing all the time. It is a big challenge.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one aspect of whether we're talking about you as a real estate agent, you as a real estate coach, or you getting into the brain of all these clients that I'm interested in, that I see as a through thread, is systems. It seems to me that when you were an agent, you had a systematic thing in place.
Yeah.
As a coach, I'm sure you also employ them. And then as a coach of agents and looking into their brains. Talk to me about systems and the importance, because that's something that I'm curious to hear you talk about.
Yeah. So depending on what the agent wants to work on, there needs to be a plan. You can call it an SOP, you can call it a framework, you can call it a business plan.
Standard operating procedure. Sorry, I was that far behind.
Real estate lingo.
Yeah.
Or I guess that's not real estate lingo, but it's just, it depends what they want to do. But what I see so much are people just flying by the seat of their pants.
Doesn't work.
Or
it works for a deal or two.
Yeah. Right? And there's also an element of luck in this business, right? You can go on a pitch, you can wing it, you can get it, you can get a referral from it. You can, kind of snowball from one little lucky incident, right? But if you rely on that, your business will dry up.
Right.
So it's important to put things into place, and it's different for everyone. Like if you told me I want to work on, keeping in touch with my past clients better, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean to you? Does that mean you want to take everyone you know out for a coffee once every 6 months? That sounds good. Yeah, I should do that. That'd probably be a good thing, right?
Right.
But if you're not putting it in a calendar, you're not sending out invitations or hosting events or how do you want to keep in touch with them?
Right.
Put together a plan.
Yes.
Most people just say, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to get to, and there's no follow through.
Interesting. Yeah, I can attest to this from working with you, is that, let's use the example you just said. I want to stay connected to my past clients. And then your follow-up question is exactly what you just said. All right, how are we going to do that? And I think taking those next steps and saying, okay, well, for me, that means I'm going to put it into ReChat, right? And I'm going to say that, Jaclyn, I need to talk to her once every, whatever we decide, 3 months. I'm going to set an automatic reminder that I reach out to her on this day, and then I do that, and then I schedule the coffee, and then I go to the coffee, and then I put the notes into the ReChat so I know what happened, and then I set the automatic reminder, or it's already set for the future. And that's just one person.
That's one
times
person.
Your entire database.
Right. And everyone you're adding in all the time. It's a lot of maintenance. But some people truly believe that you don't need a CRM to keep track of all that.
Right.
Do you know anyone like that?
I used to, but I can't quite recall who it was. Yeah, I used to do it in my head, and I think a lot of us have been there.
Yes.
And I have beat this horse bloody on this podcast, but I'm a trained musician, and there's something about it that we just remember stuff.
Right.
Okay, that's in my DNA.
Right.
And I got very lucky with that because I remember a lot of things, and I have done an enormous amount of transactional volume, and I just happen to remember it. Right. And I don't forget things, and I got very lucky.
Right.
But it is so much easier with the systems.
Yes.
So now I'm bringing us back to systems. What system do you use most often personally, for your own coaching business, as when you were an agent or when you talk to agents? Like, what is the thing that people need system help with? And then follow up to that, how do we do it?
So for me, it's always been as just an organizational tool, really. How do you stay organized? I happen to love Google Drive. I know that's not sexy, that's not cool, but it works for me. And that's what matters. What works for you? What is it that you know how to use and you will use?
You know, that's really a great point, because people fear changing all these platforms. Like if the brokerage you're working for changes platforms, all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not going to do it, you know, and then you do nothing.
Right.
So the system you use is the system you like.
The best one is the one you will use.
Right.
And what a lot of agents get caught up in is putting together these systems. They have all these excuses as why, well, this system won't work, or I want to try this one. It's like, just find one.
Right.
You know, there's a million ways to skin a cat. You know, it's just which.
Are there?
I know. I
It's
always
one of
thought
those
that
weird
was
phrases,
weird.
isn't it?
Doesn't
All
really
right.
make sense.
Whatever.
But you know, if
I'm
you'll
watching
use
this really
it,
creepy show on Netflix right now, something about Ohio, something in Ohio, and it's dark.
It's about the cats.
Well, there's like a crow. There's I wouldn't be surprised if there's cats getting on this show.
Because there's something about cats.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway. So whatever you will use
right.
is the best one for you.
And you know what? Let me take a pause here. I know we're getting really nitty gritty into like the business of real estate right now, but this is really applicable to any business, right?
Is.
Like what are the things that you need to automate and systematize that you're not doing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you own a coffee shop. Okay, how are you doing outreach to the people in your neighborhood? Are you going to events, you know, in the neighborhood and giving out free coffee so they know that you're there? How are you expanding your customer base? Are these things being reminded to you? So I think that while this episode is getting really granular to the agent, it's applicable to everybody. Think of how this can be applicable to your business.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Totally. I mean, this is, like I said, it's not so much about the craft. It's not really, I mean, it is about real estate because I understand real estate. I've done real estate. I'm speaking the same language with these agents, but it's sort of just fundamentals of running a business.
Okay, so where do you see people pitfall in running a business? Why, like if you're working with a client and you're like secretly in your head thinking, oh man, this person's doomed, right? But you're still working with them because you're going to try, right? What is it that you see that they're doing or not doing that this is the kiss of death?
So as cliche as this may sound, a lot of it is around mindset.
No way.
Yeah. Some people
because I usually have a terrible mindset. I got to be honest. Like I'm a chipper dude, but
I don't think so.
Inside my head is like, it's a scary place. It's a scary place. Okay, but go ahead. Mindset.
Well, I think that people get really, I mean, it's easy in this business for something to ruin your day, your week, your month, and to just kind of feel like you're like, screw it, screw this business. I'm throwing in the towel.
Right.
And it's hard to get back on track, especially if you lose like a big deal.
Right. Hey, deals come and go.
Deals come and go.
You know what I always say, like when one of my agents on my team is too focused on a deal, I said, you know what? You're too focused on a deal because you don't have enough deals. Go get more deals.
Exactly. The more balls you have in the air, I mean, the less it hurts when one drops.
Right.
Because you're like, you don't even have time to focus on what just fell through. You got to go to that listing pitch.
Okay, so the person that fails is the person that can't take it mentally.
I mean, not necessarily. You know, I think it ebbs and flows. I've seen people with highs and lows. I myself have had them.
Right.
You have to like let yourself feel it a little bit because you're human.
Right.
But you know, and that's also something that I struggle with too. Is always keeping my coaching hat on. Because, I mean, I understand what that feels like. I'm also an empath, but it's like I have to keep these people going.
Interesting.
You know, I mean, I had a client once on our call, he received a text about this big deal that blew up in his face and he almost started crying on the call.
Right.
And because it was like that big. Yeah. And I was like, you know, in my head, I was like, oh man, like this guy should just go get a drink and, you know, take the rest of the day off because I know what it feels like.
Right.
But I'm a coach.
Right.
And instead we talked about like, you know, what's going to make you feel much better? Go get another deal.
Right.
Go feel it. Go have that drink, you know, for an hour.
Right.
Take a breather and then go get another deal.
Right. This is like meditation / therapy 101. Like, right, there's the river, there's my problem, and it floats by and I experience it and then it's gone, right? Like, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're dealing with in the real estate industry and a lot of businesses, when you're dealing with the Gen Pop, okay, like people are crazy.
Yeah.
People are crazy.
They are.
And you have to just be okay with that and understand that sometimes you are the punching bag because there's nobody else to punch.
Right.
Right? Like I get punched a lot and sometimes it does get to me, right? I'm like,
sure. Yeah.
But I just try to be like, you know what? It's not about me. It's not about me.
Right.
I'm just the guy they're punching.
Yep. And you're dealing with so many different people on one deal.
Right.
That everyone comes to you.
Right. You're the point of contact.
Exactly.
You're the one they know.
Yes.
So yeah, okay. So one thing that has helped my business a ton is the systemization of everything. So now, and this is in part was driven because of the fact that I am a high transactional person instead of like a high volume, sales volume. I don't do many $5 million deals. I do a ton of $500,000 deals. So, and unfortunately what that means is I'm doing the same process just times 80 or 100 instead of times 1, right? So I have to have all these things lined up. So I found the biggest level up for me was when I created like a flow to everything. So that I take myself out, or if I feel sick one day, it can be done without me. Once the listing agreement is signed, here's what happens. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody on the team knows it. In fact, there's even an SOP in the team drive. So that if one of the agents gets a listing, they can go there and see how to do it.
Yes.
Systemization has been so huge for me, and it took me so long to get there, and I feel like an idiot that it took so long. But now that I'm there, I'm like, why doesn't everybody do this sooner?
Right.
Why? But why? What's stopping people?
Because it's another task to create them. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I once had someone tell me that they felt like coaching was just adding another thing to their plate. And I was like, that's the totally wrong way of looking at it.
Right.
There are things we will work on, like creating SOPs and checklists and, things that we've talked about,
sure,
in your coaching, in your real estate business. But then it makes things easier.
Yes, always. Always. Wow.
It's like a small, it's a little bit of a growing pain. You're getting out of your comfort zone. You're putting together things. Yes, it takes time, but it will pay off because for the next time, you don't have to do it again.
Right. Right. Huh. All right. So now let's flip the coin a little bit. Let's talk about people that you have either, when you were an agent, put that brain back on, or as a real estate coach, or looking into these other clients that you have. What are the rock stars doing? Like, what are they doing differently than everybody else? Like we talked about what you see as a point of failure or a break point. What are those people that are really at the top of their game doing?
The people really at the top of their game have a brand.
Really?
And
is it that simple?
It's not that simple. It's hard to have a brand, but that really sets them apart. And I mean, bravo to you because you do this very well. But that, I'm not just trying to, stroke your ego.
She's not being paid. Okay, so let's be honest. This is nothing. Yeah.
But it really matters because if you're up for a listing or somebody who hasn't posted a thing on social media or nobody knows their face in the area that they work in, who are they going to choose?
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So let's dive in here a little bit. I'm going to reveal some of the things that I do, some of my secrets. So go ahead, people, and just take them. But, to your point, if you Google my name and real estate, because if you Google my name and other things, there's all kinds of things that come up. Like you can see a whole bunch of videos and singing and all kinds of stuff. But if you Google my name and real estate, you're going to see all, like you're saying, all my Instagram presence, all those posts that I've done. You're going to see over 100, I think currently 38 5-star reviews on Zillow. Okay. You're going to see Google reviews. You're going to see all these things. They're all free. And when people don't do them, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Because to your point, this afternoon when we leave here, I'm going to go sign a listing agreement for something that the person has no idea who I am. Well, I sent them these links because, I mean, of course they're going to Google me,
Of
but I
course.
send them as well. And I say, hey, I know we don't know each other so well. Take a look at what these other 137 people have said about working with me.
Right.
Right. And some agents are like, well, how do you get the reviews? Nobody ever wants to write a review. I'm like, you're right. Nobody ever does want to write a review. So when you close a deal with me, you don't get a gift at the closing table because I think that's tacky as hell. I wait. And I don't wait a super long time, but I deliver you a handbag, like a bag full of climate change merch, the climate change t-shirt, the climate change specific candle scent that I have, the tape measurer, the bottle of fancy booze.
What is that scent, by the way?
That's
Was it created?
It's proprietary. And, and this bag goes to them. And then the day later, part of one of my systems is that Brittany, my amazing assistant, sends the favor email that says favor in the subject. And then in the body says, can you do these couple reviews for me? Here's how you do it. Click this link, click this link. If you need help, let me know. And like we've already talked about today, people feel like they owe you something now. I gave you a gift, even though it was really for the closing.
Right.
And then the next day I ask for a review and they're like, oh, geez, I better do that review for him.
Exactly.
He gave me this nice gift.
Exactly.
And then I get 137 reviews.
Right.
Hello, it's so easy.
It's easy, but it's time consuming.
But it's not if you systematize it.
Right. But creating all of that, putting things into place, having an assistant, right? I mean, not everyone is there yet to have an assistant to help.
So when I didn't have it, I did it all myself. Or scheduleSend. Have you heard of scheduleSend?
That's why you're a rock star.
All right. I'll take it. I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back. Yeah, but what you're saying, if you don't have the wherewithal yet to do that, you can make it happen for you. When I didn't have Joan helping me with my Instagram, I still had one. I just didn't have as many followers.
Right.
I was still posting. I just didn't know how to gain more people. Right. But so you got to be doing your own grit until you can say, all right, now I'm going to decide that for me, again, I'm telling you all my tricks, right? I'm going to spend $250 a month on the social media thing.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Like, that's now what I do.
Right.
And now it ups my game this much more.
Exactly.
Right?
Sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this, you have to work on your business and not always in your business.
Oh my God. Yes.
It's so true. If you need to take a day to work on your social media and not schedule any showings, that's what you have to do, because guess what? When you get a new client, they're Googling you.
Yes. Yes.
So if you haven't taken the time to do that, you may lose.
Right. Right.
And that's just the world we live in now.
It's true. And I think that for me, I've found the most success in scheduling this is a part of days instead of full days.
Absolutely.
I know that everybody can do it, the way that works for them.
Yeah.
But we kind of decide, hey, on Wednesday afternoon from, 1 to 2, we're going to do a bunch of Hey Andy's, which is the most brilliant thing that Brittany has ever thought of. One day we're just sitting in the room and she's like, hey, Andy, and asked me a question. And I said to her, wait, why isn't that a reel? Why isn't that a 20-second reel?
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my gosh, we just had our idea. I was like, we just had our $1 million idea.
Yes.
And some of these things get reshared and watched like 10,000 times, which is mind blowing to me.
It is.
The one that's been performing the best actually is the one where I put my coat on the subway platform and everyone was like, that is so disgusting. I can't believe you would put your clothes on the subway platform. I'm like, what?
But things like that make you relatable, not just as a real estate professional, but that's also the whole thing, right? Like you said, you're going to a listing appointment where they don't know who you are.
Not at all.
But guess what? They do, because they looked you up and they do know who you are. And they're like, this guy is cool. He's just like me. He likes to drink beer. He likes to put his clothes on the subway. He rides the subway.
Right.
Right? That he has a daughter. I have a daughter. Right. We're the same kind of people. I trust him.
Right.
And also, he knows what he's doing in this industry, because look at all the deals he's doing.
Right. So it's the relatable aspect of it.
When you're working with an agent, you are spending a lot of time either with them or communicating with them.
This is interesting, even as I think about, like, from a business standpoint, all the small businesses that I support, I feel that way. I feel that I am related to them in some way, or that I I don't know if I want to go to like trust them, but like my coffee shop that I go to, I relate to them, right? There's a feeling of comfort there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you really hit on something there.
Yes. I mean, it's, if you think about it, if you're going to go buy an apartment, right?
Yeah.
And you're starting the process, you are like married to this agent for like at least 3-4 months.
Right.
So you better like them.
Right.
You better enjoy spending time with them, enjoy the banter, the back and forth as you're walking around, you know, the East Village, looking at all these places all day Sunday or, whatever it is. You are spending time with these people, so they want to like you.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're probably not going to work with you no matter how successful you are. So the mix of showing your audience who you are professionally but also personally
is huge. Interesting. So how do you, just real quick, how do you do this as like a real estate coach? That seems like a hard thing to do as a real estate coach. How do you show who you are?
So I think the role as a real estate coach is a little bit different.
Okay.
It's mostly professional.
Yeah.
You're not doing a ton of personal, I mean, I definitely get to know my clients. Some of them I know already.
Right.
So somebody like you that I've known for a very long time,
sure,
we have more of that.
Yeah.
But with most of my other clients, it's much more professional.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like
it's much more professional than our
I
sessions.
just mean that we have a history.
Yeah.
So we were friends first.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
So, I think when people look for a coach,
Sure.
they're not necessarily looking for a friend as well.
Sure.
They're looking for someone to push them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bit of a different dynamic.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Well, this has been quite a time together. You have given me a lot to think about. I think that entrepreneurs everywhere are going to be like, holy crap, now I have to redo everything. But that's what this is about. It's about, I think what you just said, pushing ourselves a little bit further. I think you've given us a lot to consider of how we can reassess and now push out further. I like to ask everybody the last 5 questions that are the same, just to see if I get any good new gems. Okay. So I like to eat out a lot. I spend way too much money doing so, but oh well. In fact, one of my friends said to me the other day, you're gonna cook one night this week? And I was like, yeah, I am. What's your favorite New York City restaurant?
Oh, well, probably my favorite was a COVID casualty.
Oh, no.
I know. In Hell's Kitchen, it was called Taboo. Did you ever go there?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was really good. But I like really funky little places. I'm not like a real big foodie. I like more of the ambiance and like,
ambience.
Place where you can people watch and
interesting.
But I love like Miss Lily's in the East Village, that little Caribbean place.
I've never been.
Very cute. Good food and it's kitschy,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. Do you have a secret go-to spot? You must, as an agent, former.
So, like from a business go-to
No,
spot?
just like if somebody like comes to visit you.
Oh, yeah.
Someplace you would take them that maybe I don't know about.
Okay. There's this little sake bar underground.
Yes.
It's called Decibel in the East Village. It's on
I'm seeing a pattern
First.
here. Everything's in the East Village.
I know. Yeah, I like that. The grittiness of it.
Yeah, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I'll go.
All right. You'll go with me. How about that?
All right, fair.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like the underground kind of like.
Underground.
Yeah.
Do you have to like call like
graffiti
the day of like at like X time to get in? Is it one of those?
No, you don't have to call, but you'll have to wait.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't like lines.
But
either.
It's cool.
Right, whatever.
It's cool.
If I had a camera to you 3 or 5 years ago, and you're talking to yourself now, and with your business now, not all these other schmoes businesses, but your business, your life, even life, let's say, what would you say to yourself?
I would say no matter how much you plan, you may not be able to plan ahead.
Interesting. Yeah. And you got to be flexible. I heard you say that at the beginning. Pivot. You used the word pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's huge. I love that. Especially for me right now with baby 2 right around the corner.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Pivoting.
The best money management thing you do, because I haven't really delved into this a ton on the podcast so far, but I love like money management and investing. So is there like something you do that you want to share?
Well, not so much of the investing part, but just from, running a business.
Yeah, sure. Talk to me about that.
I use Quicken. I mean, I know that's like kind of common, but it works.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you when I lived in the city, I was spending a lot more money on mindless things, but, I could probably tell you how much I spent on bakeries in 2019.
Right. Because it's all there.
It's all there.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I can't do that. And that's probably a good thing. What's your favorite book?
Oh, I Know This Much Is True by Wally Lamb.
Oh, I don't know it.
It's a novel.
Oh.
Yeah.
How long
or did you mean a business book?
No, I don't care. How long would it take me to read?
I don't know. How much do you read?
Oh, I used to read a lot. One year I read 60 books.
Really?
Can you believe that?
No.
That was definitely pre-kid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on.
Right.
Yeah. How many pages is it?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, ballpark.
I don't know. 350?
350. Okay, so it's like a week. It's like a week's read.
I guess you're reading a lot.
Well, you got to just get through it. Jaclyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. If you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, I'm a real estate agent and I would like a real estate coach, there is no one better, and I can personally attest.
Thank you.
So they can look below in the comments and your information is there, or they can go to Instagram at Coach Jaclyn Treink.
Yep.
Or Coach Jaclyn at Gmail, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, but we'll have it underneath. And if you need a real estate agent, by the way, I happen to know one. Andrew Klima, #ClimateChange. Please like and subscribe the podcast. Please give me your referrals. Do whatever you want. Or just send me a message and say, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you next time on the pod.